Hey, distinction students, English with Knowledge and Academy. So, we are looking at transformations. Transformations. Now, the approach here is some kind of different. We are not just going to look at one structure or one topic. No, we have combined. We are going to look at different. Now, I am going to simplify them. I'll simplify the right. So, we'll look at the unreal past condition, and under condition we'll just focus on not until and unless. Then from there we'll look at little did and prefer dash dash to. Mostly these things don't miss in an exam, so we are going to simplify them. Let us start with the unreal past. Just be trying to get the main concept here. Just try to get the main concept. So when you hear this word unreal past, we are talking about it's high time. It's a high time. I'm sure you've seen these questions in the examination papers. It's a high time. It's a high time. Now, how do you answer such a question? So it's very simple and straightforward. Once you see it's a high time, you see this phrase, it's a high time. Just know that the main verb in the sentence will be in past. Once you use it's a high time, the main verb will be in what? In past. I just want you to take simple concepts here. So for example, it is time that you take. Have you seen? Take is in present here. It is time that you take this matter seriously. It's time for you to take this matter seriously. So the subject here is you. Doing what? Taking this matter seriously. Now look, when you use it is a high time, this is the unreal past. That's why it is called the unreal past. You just change that verb to past tense. You change it to what? To past tense. So it's high time you. Now, what is the past tense of take? It's took, right? So we are just going to change take to took. So it is high time you took this matter seriously. Just one thing that you change here. Just one thing that you are supposed to change in this case. Question number 2. It is time for us to start making our own notes. It is time for us to start making our own notes. So you have to be very careful with the verb to change. Are you going to change start or making? So you change the verb which is directly linked to the subject. The verb that is directly linked to the subject. When you look at the first question, you do what? You take. Then the second question, us, to do what? To start. Then making is coming after start. So the verb that is directly connected to the subject here, which is us, is start. So it is time for us to start making our own notes. How do you rewrite that when you use it is high time? So it's high time we started making our own notes. Why have we changed it to we? Because we cannot say it's high time us started making our own. That will not make sense. So we need to have a pronoun here that will serve as a subject. It's high time we started making our own notes. We have only changed start to started. Question number 3. We need to start working. We need to do what? Start working. So which verb is directly connected to we here? It is start. It is start because working is coming after start. So start is the verb that is directly connected to the we, and it's the one that we are going to change to past. Simple as that. So we need to start working hard for the good of our country. We need to start working hard for the good of our country. Begin. It's time, or it's high time. So it's high time we started. It's high time we started working hard for the good of our country. And remember, in this case, when you say it's high time, you're not going to say it's high time we need to start it. You're not going to say that. It's high time has already expressed the need. It's the time. So it's high time we started working hard for the good of our country. And the last question on the unreal past. You need to become serious with your studies. You need to become serious with your studies. It is a high time. It is high time. So remember, we don't count need as a verb here. It's not a verb, So you need to do what? Become. So become is our main verb directly connected to the subject, which is you. So it is high time you became, very good. It is high time you became serious with your studies. So what you just have to know is that here you are starting with a pronoun, which is the main subject, and then you put the main verb in past tense. So it is high time you became serious with your studies. You are just changing one thing here, just the verb in past tense. Just put it in past tense. That's the thing. Let us look at condition. Unless and not until. So we'll start with unless. First of all, unless means if not. So unless on its own, it is negative. It is very, very wrong to say unless ify. Because unless has if in it. It means if not. So if you say unless ify, then you are saying if not ify. You are repeating the if. So stop saying unless ify. It is wrong English. Now, when you say unless, you have already introduced negativity to a sentence. You have already introduced negativity to a sentence. So always consider the word unless to be negative. For example, if Mwansa comes, we will go to the cinema. If Mwansa comes, we will go to the cinema. Interesting. Now, let us begin with unless. Unless Mwansa comes. So when we say unless Mwansa comes, we mean if Mwansa does not come. Because unless is negative. Therefore, by us introducing unless to this sentence, if Mwansa comes, then we are changing it to negative. And what is negative of Mwansa comes? Mwansa doesn't come. Mwansa doesn't come. So what will happen if Mwansa doesn't come? Whereas if he comes, we will go to the cinema. What if he doesn't come? We will not go to the cinema. So mostly, if you have the word unless, you begin with the word unless here. After a comma, the next phrase, the second clause is supposed to have the word not in it. Because the first condition is not happening because of the word unless. Unless sponsor comes, we will not go to the cinema. Question 2. I will give you money only on one condition that you come to school. I will give you money only on condition that you come to school. So, unless you come to school, so this means if this person comes to school, I will give him or her money. But what if he or she doesn't? Will I? No, I won't. Because the condition is coming to school. So if this person does not come to school, then I won't give him or her money. So we have introduced unless to this statement. We have introduced unless. Therefore, we have made it a negative condition. The condition is not happening. So unless you come to school, meaning if you don't come to school, what will happen? Am I going to give you money? No. So unless you come to school, I will not give you money. Unless you come to school, I will not give you money. Question 3. You will emerge victorious provided you remain focused. You will emerge victorious provided you remain focused. So, unless, when we simplify this question, we can say, if you remain focused, you will emerge what? Victorious. What if you don't remain focused? Will you emerge victorious here? Not at all. So, unless is changing this statement now. Unless you remain focused, Meaning, if you don't remain focused, you will not emerge victorious. So, like you have seen, my strategy is still working here. When you have unless in the first clause, you should have the word not in the second clause. So here the answer is, unless you remain focused, comma, you will not emerge victorious. Do not forget to put a comma. Once you omit a comma, the sentence is totally wrong. And the last question, if you train harder, you will win the fight. If this person trains harder, he will win the fight. Now, let's say we start with unless. Unless you train harder. What have we said? We have said if you don't train harder. So, in as much as you will win the fight if you train harder, what will happen if you don't train harder? Meaning, you won't win the fight. So, unless you train harder, you will not win the fight. My strategy has worked in all the 4 sentences here. When you have unless in the first clause, put the word not in the second clause, because the condition in the first clause did not take place, did not happen. That is about unless. Now, let us look at not until. Not until. I'm trying to simplify this as much as possible. You will not go to the movies until you do your homework. You will not go to the movies until you do your homework. How do we use not until? This sentence has started with not until. Not until. So, when we begin with not until, go straight to where the word until is in the question. Have you seen where the word until is? Great. So, from until, get the statement that is remaining and connect it to not until. Then put a comma. Simple as that. So, not until you do your homework. Not until you do your homework. Then you put a comma. So, what you do here is, you are now going to connect this idea. You are now going to connect this. Now, what we do here is you swap the auxiliary verb and the pronoun. You swap the auxiliary verb and the subject pronoun. You will. Here it is will you. And we are eliminating the word not. So, not until you do your homework will you go to the movies. Not until you do your homework will you go to the movies. You just swap the will and the you. Then remove the word not, because this person has now done the homework. The homework meaning after doing the homework, you are allowed to go to the movies. So not until you do your homework will you go to the movies. You just swap the auxiliary verb and the subject pronoun. You will never solve this problem until somebody helps you. Not until, I said what? You go to the word until and get the remaining statement. Not until somebody helps you. And then you put a comma. Will you solve this problem? So again, you are removing never. You can't say, will you never solve? It has now changed. It is positive. So we are eliminating the negativity here. So not until somebody helps you will you solve this problem. Mwansa does not enter her parents' bedroom until she has knocked on the door. Until she has knocked on the door. That's the remaining statement. In this case, we have does Mwansa. Does Mwansa. So we are going to swap. Yes, we are going to swap. But are we going to say not until she has knocked on the door? Who has knocked? So in this case, the subject has been mentioned. Who is what? Mwansa. So we are going to say not until Mwansa has knocked on the door. Have you seen? Not until Mwansa has knocked on the door, comma, does she enter her parents' bedroom. Does she enter her parents' bedroom? Because we cannot start with she. You know, a pronoun replaces a noun. and not a noun replacing a noun. So if we start with this she, then we mention once at the end. It's like we are doing the other way around. Noun replacing a pronoun, which is not possible. So in this case, it is an exception. You are supposed to start with the subject. You have to mention the subject, the noun. You have to mention the name. He did not start to read until he was 10 years old. He did not start to read until he was 10 years old. So not until, let's go to until and get your remaining statement. Not until he was 10 years old. He did. As we are going to say, did he start to read? Don't say, did he not start to read? No, because you have now changed it to positive. So not until he was 10 years old did he start to read. Just like that, you are done with not until. Let us look at little did. Little did. I'm sure you have seen this structure in different past papers. So, first question. He little thought that he would one day become prime minister. He little thought he would one day become prime minister. Begin. Little did. Little did. So when you're using little did, you know, did is past. Did is past, I repeat. So we don't say, I didn't say it. I didn't thought. No, because did is already past. So when you use did, you say, I didn't say. I didn't think. I didn't come. I didn't eat. I did say. I did indicate. Like that. When you use did, the verb must be in present. That's how it is. So since you introduced little did, since you introduced did because of the structure little did, you are going to change the verb from past to present. Simple as that. That's just one thing that you do with little did. You just change the verb from past to what? To present. The verb that is directly connected to the subject. So he little thought. He little thought. So little did, we can't say little did he thought. No. Little did he think. Little did he think he would one day become prime minister. Or you can include that. Little did he think that he would one day become prime minister. So that is optional. If you want, you can include it or not. I didn't think you would betray me. I didn't think you would betray me. Little did. So just after little did, you have to put the subject. Little did I think. Little did I think you would betray me. Little did I think that you would betray me. Same thing. You cannot say, little did I didn't think. That's not making sense. Because when we say I didn't think and little did I think, this is one and the same thing. I didn't think. Little did I think is already in negative form. So I didn't is already expressed in little did. Kazingu little thought that he would one day go to London. Little, so I said after little did, you have to put the word, the subject, to remember that. So little did Kazingu think. Listen, little did Kazingu think that he would one day go to London. We don't change everything this side. We just play with the what? The verb. Just play with the main verb here. In this case, it's thought, and we have changed it to present think. Little did Kazingu think that he would one day go to London. We little thought that he would one day become president. We little thought that he would one day become president. Little, so you know that little is always followed by what? Did here. Little did, you have to put the subject of the sentence. So little did we think that he would one day become president. So the only fact here, the only strategy here is that you have to change the main verb to present. You have to change the main verb to present. You are doing the opposite for the unreal past. The unreal past, you change the main verb to past. But here you change the main verb to present. That's the thing. That's how you deal with little did. And the last one, prefer to and rather than. You know, I just got the common ones. I'm sure you have seen these two in an exam paper. So, you use prefer with to, rather with than. Don't say, I prefer mangoes than oranges. No. You always prefer something to something. You always rather do something than something else. So, let us look at these examples. I would rather eat oranges than drink mossy. I would rather eat oranges than drink mossy. So, one fact here that I want to introduce you to is when you are using rather, the verb is always in present tense. When you are dealing with rather, the verbs are always in present tense in their neutral form. I would rather eat. Don't say I would rather eating. No. I would rather eat than do this. I would rather do this than do that. So rather than works with present tense. But when we put prefer --to, if you're comparing verbs, then the verbs should be in present continuous tense. Present continuous what? Tense. So begin. I prefer eating oranges to drinking mossy. We can say I prefer eat oranges to drink mossy. That will not make sense. So I prefer eating oranges to drinking mossy. That is if we are comparing two actions. The guest of honor took vodka and not whiskey. The guest of honor took vodka and not whiskey. The guest of honor preferred taking vodka to whiskey. Taking, as you have seen here, taking is the only verb that we have. We had took here, had took. It has changed to taking. When you are using prefer, always the verb has to be in present continuous tense. Present continuous tense. This verb took is in past tense because we do not have rather in this question. Have you seen? There is no rather than. You can ask, but you said there is always present. There is no rather than in this case. So it depends with the way the question has been phrased. I would rather starve than eat worms. I would rather starve than eat worms. I prefer. So you are comparing actions here. I prefer starve to eat worms. No, that's very wrong. I prefer starving to eating worms. I prefer starving to eating worms. I prefer going to the cinema to watching television. This does not mean you prefer going to the cinema so that you watch television. No. This means that you like going to the cinema than watching television. That's what it means. So I prefer going to the cinema to watching television. I would rather. So look, when we use I prefer, the verb is always in present continuous. But for rather than, the verbs must always be in neutral form, present. I would rather go. Going, it will change to go. I would rather go to the cinema than watch television. I would rather go to the cinema than watch television. I would rather drink water than beer. I would rather drink water than beer. I prefer drinking water to beer. I prefer drinking water to beer because it's the same verb. You know, it will be a repetition when we say I prefer drinking water to drinking beer. It's the same thing. So I prefer drinking water to beer. These are the structures that I wanted us to look at today. We will continue in the next video. We'll take it up from here. Thank you very much for watching Knowledge World Academy. Your perfect tutor, Mr. CJ.